Today on our segment of RRHS, we will be discussing 5 of the most important ways us humans learn through our 5 senses, with of course the addition of another sense you guys may refer to as kinesthetics or movement. Why don't we start with one of my favorite senses of all, hearing.
Thank you, Christine. Hi, my name is Laura Lane. For many people, hearing a new song, learning to pronounce a new word, are some of the ways we learn from hearing. But when you lose that auditorial sense, how do we learn? A majority of deaf people lose their hearing later on in their life. Sign language is a way for deaf people to learn. Students go to school to learn sign language, and students learn sign language from interacting with their peers. Grammar is the same way as any student learn from a regular school. And also deaf people learn through vibrations. They either put their hand on their throat and 1 inch away from their mouth to learn how to speak. And if they want to listen to music, they either put their hand on a boombox or a radio to learn the vibration and how it moves. Or either they can look at your lips to know what you're saying, and they can interact back with you if you don't know sign language. And that is how deaf people learn.
Now we are here with Dr. Rojas, who will be speaking on how touch is used in everyday learning as well.
Hi, my name is Melissa, and I'm here to talk about the sense of touch. So, while your other 4 senses, sight, hearing, smell, and taste, are located in specific parts of the body, your sense of touch is located all over. This is because your sense of touch originates in the bottom layer of your skin called the dermis. The dermis is filled with many tiny nerve endings which give you info about the The nerve ending in your skin tell you if something is hot or cold. They can also feel if something is hurting you or your body. Your body has about 20 different types of nerve endings that all send messages to your brain. However, the most common receptors are heat, cold, pain, and pressure of touch receptors. Pain receptors are probably the most important for your safety because they can protect you by warning your brain that your body is hurt. Just as that happened because somebody threw a pine cone at me. I am now hurt. So, some areas of the body are more sensitive than others because they have more nerve endings. Have you ever bitten your tongue and wondered why it hurts so much? It is because they have more nerve endings, because it is because the sides of your tongue have a lot of nerve endings that are very sensitive to pain. However, your tongue is not good at sensing hot or cold. That is why it is easy to burn your mouth when you eat something really hot. Your fingertips are also very sensitive. People who are blind use their fingertips to read Braille by feeling the patterns of raised dots on their paper. And here are some sensational facts that I can talk about. You have more pain nerve endings than any other type, and the least sensitive part of your body is the middle of your back. The most sensitive areas of your body are your hands, lips, face, neck, tongue, fingertips, and your feet. And shivering is a way of your body has of trying to get warmer, but it's not very effective in Wisconsin. So there are about 100 touch receptors in each of your fingertips. And also it helps us with learning to keep away from germs and stuff. So what I'm holding here is a pine cone. That boy threw this pine cone at me. That hurt. The reason I know that is because my sense of touch said that it hurts. So this helped me learn not to throw pine cones at people because it hurts. And that's my interview. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Dr. Rojas' story is really touching. Now we'll be introducing taste and sight.
Hello guys, and today my segment is on taste. Now, do you remember the taste of Grandma's sweet apple pie? The warmth of chocolate sliding down your throat? The coolness of a watermelon? Taste is a very important part of our life. Without taste, we would just be bland and boring. And one likes certain things, you know. I like to cook, and there's a type of food that everyone dislikes. This can be like Brussels sprouts or spinach, my favorite. But there's reasons why people don't like this. It could be because the food is nasty, because people didn't cook it right, God forbid, or because they had a bad experience. This bad experience could include having food poisoning or a stomach flu. Now, many people don't like a certain food because they had this bad experience, and this is called taste aversion. Your body does not want to eat that type of food anymore because it thinks that it made you sick. And I had this personal experience before. I can no longer eat Chile candy, hummus, or even tomato and basil chips during dinner. This is because I had a stomach flu. And now, that was a horrible experience. And my brain remembers that personal experience, and remembering is close to learning. And because I learned from this experience, I can never, ever eat hummus again, because I'm afraid that I will get sick. And I learned from that experience. There was an experiment done on rats. They injected poison into their food, and all the rats got sick because they ate this food with poison in it. And you can tell that taste aversion is connected to learning because the scientists that put the poison in the rat's food fed them again. But the rats this time knew from learning and knew from experience not to eat that food because they got very sick, and they did not touch it because their body learned from how they got sick, and they stayed away from the food that made them sick.
The tongue has 4 taste palates: bitter, sour, sweet, and salty.
Bitter, sour, sweet,
and salty. The tongue is filled with many different types of taste buds, thousands of them even. And there is a new study that says that cigarette smoking can cause the taste buds to become dull or not even exist. He says that cigarette smoking not only causes cancer and cardiovascular disease, it also dulls taste, making food less pleasurable. And there was a study that was done that tested the taste buds of many smokers. And it says that the taste buds of the smokers were less dull than the tongues of the non-smokers. Smoking can also affect the size or shape of the taste buds and the formation of blood cells. And a doctor, according to WebMD, says smoking is an important factor which can lead to the decreased taste sensibility. Closing off.
In addition to the color of the year, Pantone also picks several different colors to coincide with this color to create a balance for other colors to use in the fashion world. A video of this is shown, and a fashion expert named Leah Treseisman talks about this in this video.
Hello, my name is Leah Treseisman, and I'm the Executive Director of the Pantone Color Institute. I'm going to talk to you about the spring-summer colors for 2013 for our new forecast, and I'm going to go through the colors with you to explain where they're coming from, why we feel they're important, but most importantly to talk about the sense of balance that we feel is the theme for 2013 spring-summer. You know, in our lives we're always seeking balance of some kind. We seek it in our diets, we seek it in getting enough exercise, work versus play, all of those wonderful things, but we don't often think about color as an expression of balance. And so for spring-summer 2013, we have a wonderful balancing of color. On the one hand, we have what we call our novel neutrals, and I'll explain what they're about in just a moment. In addition to that, we have the balance that we're trying to create between light and bright, while all at the same time we are trying to bear in mind that color and clothing is a means of self-expression. So we want to get these all together and to bring you the 10 top colors for the season. First of all, we're going to start with a couple of those balanced novel neutrals that I was talking about. And the first one is a color called dusk blue. Now, we don't always think about blue as a neutral color, but really it can be. In nature, we see blue backgrounds to almost everything, and we don't think of it necessarily as not working with everything else that we see in the foreground of nature. So we start with a dusk blue. Think about the time of day when the world is quieting down. We need a little bit of calm, a little bit of serenity, and certainly a color like dusk blue can bring us that. The next color is a grayed jade. Now, just as the name implies, it's the color of jade, but it has a very strong gray undertone added to it. And it functions perfectly as a neutral color because of this strong gray undertone. Another very calming influence in the green family for spring-summer of 13. The color after that is called linen. And linen is a nude-like color. We call it nude-like because we know that there's a vast variety of skin tones. Not everybody has the same shade of skin tone, so what is really nude? But there is a quality to this color that gives you that very light, diaphanous, airy feeling that in fact makes it function very much like a neutral color. The next color is emerald. And emerald is starting our balancing act into something a little bit more vivid, a little bit brighter, has a sense of clarity that's attached to it, and yet, just as emeralds do, it certainly has a sparkle attached to it. So it's a beautiful spring color that will be a marvelous grounding for many other colors that are in the palette. Then we have African violet. Now, just as the name implies, it's a floral color, but there's sort of an attachment to the exotic that we think of when we think of the term African violet. And it, too, makes for a wonderful combining color in kind of unexpected ways to our other colors for spring 2013. The next shade is called nectarine. Nectarine is really the answer to where orange has been in the last few years. We know that it has had a very strong presence, and what we see happening for 2013 is a very warm coral touch, a really lovely, skin-flattering tone for many different kinds of complexions. The next is poppy red. And of course, springtime has to have some fun shade of red. And with poppy, we get a color that literally does pop out at us. A wonderful color for combining and for that sense of exuberance that we feel we need in springtime. Next, we have a color called lemon zest. And just as the name implies, it has a little bit of that zesty component that's attached to it. Something that makes us smile, something that makes us stop and think for a moment of sunshine and good cheer.
The colors chosen to coincide with the emerald colored of the year is also dusk blue, grayed jade, tenor shoots, which is also kind of like a shade of green, African violet, lemon zest, linen, manco blue, nectarine, and poppy red. Colors is a part of your sight and what you see, but also people are also visual learners. A typical visual learner uses visualization techniques to remember things. They often have a good sense of direction because they visualize maps and directions in their mind. Many prefer to read information in a textbook or in a whiteboard rather than listen to a teacher lecture. They also enjoy doodling and drawing. Visual learners typically use sight words in their everyday terminology. For example, they might say, "Let's take a look at this," or "Let's take a look at this from a different perspective." They remember details including colors and arrangements. So being a visual learner also helps us learn because if we're drawing or doodling, that drawing also helps us pay attention and remember things better. This is Megan about sight, and I'm signing off. Bye!
This sucker appeals to both the sight and the taste. This sucker is a variety of different colors. It has yellow, pink, and blue. Wonderful Easter colors. It appeals to my taste. It tastes sweet. That is the sweet scent on the tip of my tongue. Everyone should buy suckers like this. Granted, they're not the most delicious, and granted, the Easter Bunny doesn't know how to shop in the right places, but it appeals to two senses. The leaves of this tree are pointy and spiky, but they have a smooth texture to them, as you can see. There's no crinkles or wrinkles in this tree, and the leaves are very smooth, but yet they have a sharp point at the end, which amplifies my sense of touch. Unlike the other tree over there, this tree does not have any leaves. So today I'm going to feel the rough texture of the bark. The bark has many rubbles and many, I don't know what you call them, but many wrinkles in them. And it is very tough and you can't peel anything off. It's really hard, and it has really rough texture. And it is not appealing to my hands.
Sick of your boring, unfulfilling colored, dirty tennis shoes that are so boring? Get a color of the 2013's new color, emerald color pair of shoes. They are more fulfilling and will make you leaving feeling happier and better.
Wow! And now in black.
I just got out of jail. I've been in jail for 20 years, and I've never seen the greenness of the grass. I've never felt the rough texture of the grass. I've never heard the grass crumble in my hand. I've never seen the grass blow in the wind.
For 20 years.
I've never tasted the wonderful taste of grass. It's wonderful, the senses. The sky is so blue. Oh, God. The art museum is so beautiful. And it looks like a bleached boat. And the sound of the wind whistling through my ears. It's good to be alive today, Jessica. Back to you.
Hey there.
So today, in the last segment of our show, I'd like to talk to you guys about one of the important senses of the human body: smell. Smells like winter to me. Now, why winter, you ask? Well, I usually like to keep warm by drinking something warm, like cocoa or coffee. And so I usually associate the smell of coffee with winter. It's known that people tend to link certain scents with certain experiences, and vice versa. And believe me, I've experienced winter. It's Wisconsin. It's a winter wonderland. However, what I associate the smell of coffee with can be completely different from what you guys associate it with. Maybe you hate coffee because of that one time you decided to take a whiff of Grandpa's old Colombian coffee, and from there you probably hated coffee. It's all about the social experiences that you've gone through while you experience the smell. By social events, I mean more memorable experiences. Like the time you fell off your bike when you were 6 and you did a total faceplant, and maybe you just happened to smell freshly cut grass, and later on in life you've grown up hating the scent of freshly cut grass because of that experience. And experiences like that, and so on. Basically, if you were to experience a certain scent while, let's say, something really bad happened to you, or something really good, like you won an award or something and your mom brought in flowers, you just associate the smell of flowers with winning. In all basicality, the more extreme memories can trigger this hormone in the brain called noradrenaline. And this hormone is associated with the memory dealing with the 5 senses of the body. A study was made upon mice, seeing if they could trigger the same effect. The mice had been put under anesthesia and had been simulated the release of this hormone, noradrenaline, with an electrode, while wafting the scent of something else, like food or another mice's urine. The scientists wanted to see if these two key elements, noradrenaline and scent, could trigger a chemical reaction that would have otherwise happened in the mice's brain when they experienced such a social event, like giving birth. Alright, the next day the scientists supposedly reported that the mice had changed behaviors towards this newly introduced scent. Meaning, you take in a certain scent, you add in that noradrenaline, or the memorable experience, and you've got yourself a now familiar scent.
Girl, you smell good.
You smell like blossoms and linens. You smell nice,
Smells like my basement. Oh, girl. Thanks, y'all. What is that? Coco Chanel 3000.
It smells nice.
That's my own
Is that
bodily
watermelon?
fluids. Oh, girl.
I thought I
I
smelled
want
chicken
some
from
of that.
afar.
Put it in a jar. Give it to me.
Alright, well there you have it, folks. How the sense of smell can affect memories. And that's it for my section. This is Jessica signing you off. Bye.
Movement is being acknowledged as a sense all around the world. We used movement as a sense in everyday life before we even knew or acknowledged that movement was a sense. So that begs the question, what is movement? Well, how does movement connect or conflict with other senses, since it's a sense itself? And how do we learn from movement? To answer the first question, the definition of the sense of movement is the ability to feel movements of the limbs and body. I have an article that I found that sheds light, or explains, should I say, the connection or confliction between the senses as well as how the brain interprets them. Quoting, it says, balancing is an activity that requires the proprioceptors, which are sensors in the muscles, skin, and tendons. These sensors detect touch, force, and change in muscle length in order to sense movement or sense the position of your limbs. Your ability to maintain the position of your body relies on the normally subconscious ability to combine sensory information for the proprioceptive, visual, and vestibular systems. The vestibular system is located in the middle of the ear and senses movements of the head. Proprioception is like a sixth sense for the production of movement. This is explained or stated by Dr. Kelvin Jones. He investigated the role the sixth sense plays when people relearn basic movements and behaviors after a brain injury. So, his investigation, he used a virtual reality system where the visual and force feedback resulting from movement can be separately altered. So, using the system, a task such as moving a hand to the right might result in a complete opposite on-screen movement. So, since I'm moving raising or waving my left hand on screen, I'm actually waving my right hand. Okay. So, the motor command that the brain puts out no longer gives the subjects the output visually that they're sensing from their movements. The brain has to figure out how to reprogram the movements of the arm in order to get the desired outcome. The big problem is that the proprioceptive system as well as the visual system are therefore conflicting with one another, therefore confusing the brain. The study of adaptation that occurs when people do tasks of this sort, Jones records the neural activity coming from the proprioceptor sensors in the muscles. He expected to find the brain makes the sensors fire a lot faster, but he actually discovered, or should I say his results, made him discover that it was quite the opposite, and that those people who can quickly turn off their proprioception learn the tasks more quickly. So, there are some rare people or special people who have lost their proprioceptors fibers due to disease. And speaking of diseases, that brings up the point, or should I say diseases or example of this, would be Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease has motor tremors, rigidity, loss of balance, as well as coordination, and difficulty in initiating movements altogether. Another disease is Huntington's disease, which begins with jerky movements and then involuntary movements, as well as fidgeting, limb movement, as well as withering, as well as facial grimacing. That all goes with the diseases that relate to the movement. I have the most important part of the brain that revolves around movement would be the primary motor cortex. The primary motor cortex is the execution of voluntary movements. It refines direction, force of precision of movements, and receives direct input from somatosensory cortex and posterior parietal lobe, as well as secondary motor areas. It's a lot of doctor talk. I have an article that further explains this in more non-doctor talk. So, the article says, the process that initiates a voluntary motor response is just as intricate as the sensory systems that provide the visual and auditory stimuli leading to it. In fact, the brain's motor functions have many points in common with its sensory mechanisms, especially those involved in tactile sensations. This is an example of the primary motor cortex. The primary motor cortex is adjacent to the somatosensory cortex. And this is how they're the same, because the nerve fibers leaving and entering them have the same somatic organization. So they're connected by organization. But how they're different is that the motor cortex varies with the precision of movements controlled in the body parts in question, while the somatosensory cortex varies with each body part's sensitivity to sensory information. So this leaves that last question. How do we learn from movement? Well, examples of this is a baby learning how to walk, learning how to ride a bicycle, or a dancer learning a new choreography. So what do these all have in common? Well, you all learn them through kinesthetic learning. And kinesthetic learning is learning through movement, which is scientifically proven to help alert your mind, which then helps you further learn, as well as take in directions and body movements that will therefore help you learn the movement. And so for using the example of a baby learning how to walk, a baby doesn't learn how to walk by listening to instructions, but visually, which is your visual sense, visually watching, observing the movements of a parent walking. And then by movement, it will then try to copy these movements, which then by the learning by the movement will then alert the brain to further memorize the movement. So this is how we learn. I'll answer all three questions. This is movement. Luz Gonzalez out.